Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. We're going to talk about psychology today. I am Dr. Levy, the chair of the psychology department here at the University of Akron. I've been here for 31 years and have been chair of the department for about 15. So this is a department that I know well and certainly am very committed to. Just to get started, if you look at these first two pictures up here, this is the Center for the History of Psychology, which is the finest psychology museum in the world. The only one really like it, and it is here on campus at the University of Akron, founded by a couple of psychology professors in the 60s and has grown and expanded and now has its own building and a museum, and it's just a really, really cool place. So that's just kind of a little extra added bonus that we have here on campus. So here's what I'm going to go through today, just to talk about different pieces. We'll define psychology, talk about its fit. Obviously, at some point, we'll talk about psychology here at the University of Akron because that's our most important piece. And we'll just kind of go through these until we get through them all. I think maybe 20 or 25 minutes, depending on how fast I talk. Sometimes I can talk fast. And we'll just kind of go at it that way. So first, I always like to point out to students that and parents that it's really not just about the classes. The transition to college life is a big transition. It's about making new friends. It's about taking on more responsibility in your personal life. Maybe holding down a part-time job. If you haven't done that before, that's a big transition. And those last two, I think, are really important. Budgeting your money and watching your health. I have a 21-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 27-year-old. And I've seen that. I've seen them struggle with that. Trying to understand money and how to take care of it and keep it and not spend it. Different folks adjust to that in different ways. But I think college is where that happens. We have some resources here on campus that help students with that as well. And the other is watching your health. It's easy to get caught up in snacking here and snacking there and not really taking the time to eat, not eating healthy. Those are some things that I think are really important as you're more on your own, as you adjust to college. But I'm a college professor. That's what I do. That's my identity. What happens in class is really, really important. The curriculum, what you learn, what you experience, those interactions with faculty, with students, that's really what it's about. That's the exciting part. That's why I've been doing this for my whole career, is because it's fun and it's engaging to work with students. So college life, big transitions. So what is psychology? Combination of philosophy and physiology bridges the gap between science and humanities. The focus of psychology is the human experience and behavior. And no matter what you're studying as a psychology student or a psychologist, if you go and become a psychologist, you will be studying in some way, shape, or form feelings, thoughts, and actions. That's what we do, sometimes called emotions, cognitions, and behaviors. If you're a developmental psychology, you're studying feelings, thoughts, and actions in kids. If you're an industrial organizational psychologist like I am, which is psychology applied to the workplace, then you're studying feelings, thoughts, and actions of employees and employers in the workplace. But no matter what you're looking at, it always comes back to those emotions, cognitions, and behaviors. Okay. Now, this is important. The knowledge, skills, and abilities, that's what KSAs mean. The knowledge, skills, and abilities you develop as a psychology major apply to various careers. A general liberal arts degree that teaches you how to think and solve problems and prepares you for lifelong learning. That's what we're doing with a psychology degree. It's a liberal arts degree. We are teaching you how to learn and setting you up to learn for the rest of your life. So think about this. Is a little bit different. Take an engineering degree. You go to school for engineering. It's probably a 5-year degree, 4 years plus a co-op. At the end of those 5 years, you graduate and you're an engineer. And you go out and you serve as an engineer and you work as an engineer and you are an engineer. That's a kind of professional training. Psychology and liberal arts is a little bit different. When you graduate from here in 4 years, you're not a psychologist. You can't call yourself a psychologist. And if you think about that, it probably makes sense. So before you're actually serving as a psychologist and helping people with serious mental health issues, you need more training, right? So you're not a psychologist with a bachelor's degree. You are an engineer with a bachelor's degree in engineering. That's more professional training. This is more liberal arts training. So it's different. It's different. We'll talk some more about that. But I think just want you to understand that difference. So obviously, we need to determine if psychology is a good fit for you. And these are the things that most people say they're interested in about psychology, have an interest in how the mind works, want to learn to think critically, have an interest in diversity and cultural issues, an interest in mental illness, etc. Lots of different reasons for psychology to be a good fit. The two that I hear the most from students are the top and the bottom. Have an interest in how the mind works. I've always been fascinated with that, or I want to help people. I like talking to people, and I've been able to help my friends and others, and I think this is something I could be really good at. But there's all kinds of different reasons that psychology could be a good fit for you. When I do these presentations, I don't think I've ever had a student say, nope, nothing on that list interests me. So if that's the case, email me. We can talk about that. Maybe psychology is not a good fit for you, or maybe you're interested in it from a different perspective that I haven't included in this slide. Okay. The major in psychology helps you to develop a knowledge base in the field. Obviously, you're going to take a lot of psychology classes. You're going to take a whole gamut of psychology classes, but you're also, and this is the liberal arts part, you're also going to learn how to think critically, how to communicate well, how to think in terms of research and data gathering and statistics, understand and appreciate the diversity of all types, enhance interpersonal skills, become more adaptable. Those are the knowledge, skills, and abilities, those KSAs I mentioned before, that a psychology major develops. Here's that list again, but slightly different, just from a different source, but it's basically the same stuff. Now, interestingly, this is what employers desire. These are the things that, based on surveys and research and data, that everyone agrees, these are the things that employers talk about they are looking for in new hires. What's interesting is these two lists match up pretty well. They match up pretty well. Diversity of thought and experience. Employers want people who are comfortable in diverse environments. Technology is a tool, computation and statistics. They're looking for numeric computer psychometric skills. Interpersonal awareness and skills, a focus on customers. There's a good match between what a psychology major and a liberal arts degree gives to students and what employers are looking for. Okay, so sometimes you'll hear people say, "Well, what are you going to do with a psychology major?" And our response to that here at the University of Akron Psychology Department is anything you want, because you're developing skills that are applicable to so many different careers, and I'm going to talk about that in a second too. So when we talk about degrees in psychology, there is the bachelor's degree, the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Science. As I mentioned before, you can't call yourself a psychologist with just a bachelor's degree, but you certainly can apply and use what you've learned in your psychology classes for your job. It's just that to be able to call yourself a psychologist requires an advanced degree, and it actually requires licensure, because the American Psychological Association controls what it means to be a psychologist. There's also a master's degree, Master of Arts and Master of Science. And then, of course, the terminal degree is typically the PhD. Sometimes it's something called a PsyD, just a little less research focused. Sometimes it's a doctorate in education, because we may have some counseling sorts of things, family and marriage therapy, those sorts of advanced degrees that are in colleges of education. Okay, but really the PhD is considered the most prestigious, if you will, and advanced terminal degree in the field. So you're a psychologist if you have one of these degrees and you pass a licensure exam. You can then call yourself a psychologist. The difference between a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science, because sometimes people ask this, is simply that the Bachelor of Science requires more physical sciences. The Bachelor of Arts, which is what we offer, does not require additional physical or hard science, but you can certainly take as many as you want. You can take as much biology and chemistry as you want, but the only thing that's required is the science courses to meet your gen ed requirements. Psychology major doesn't have any particular hard science requirements. That's the only difference. When it comes to getting a job, no one cares. Nobody ever says, "Oh, I'm going to hire a person with a BS, not a person with a BA," or vice versa. It's irrelevant. It's just the way universities kind of structure their degrees. That's really all it is. And then a psychiatrist gets an MD, so that's a little bit different. specialty in psychology, but an MD. So this is a physician who goes through medical school and can prescribe meds, but got special training in psychology in medical school. So just a brief little how college works. So to graduate from most colleges in the country, you need 120 credits. Typically, the undergraduate major is somewhere around 35 to 40 credits. Ours here is 40. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. The rest of those credits are general education requirements and maybe some requirements around upper level courses. So you're going to take some arts and humanities, some natural science, social science, diversity and critical thinking courses because you need to meet these general education requirements. And that's going to be a lot of your coursework. Certainly a lot of the first and second year coursework are these gen ed requirements. Then there's the major requirements. We have core requirements in psychology, foundational courses, and discipline electives. And also in the College of Arts and Sciences, there is a requirement for most majors for foreign language. So what that means is you have to at least achieve the sophomore level in a foreign language or in American Sign Language, which is what a lot of students do. So perhaps you took 3 years of Spanish and you come here and you take a placement test and it places you in second year Spanish. That means you get to bypass the first year, and then you only need to do 1 year of a foreign language here because you've already passed the freshman year, okay? So a lot of students don't do both years here because high school can count. Some students took so much and did so well in language that when they get here, they test out of it completely. Okay, so there are different ways to go. And like I said, a lot of students also use American Sign Language to fulfill that requirement. And then we offer lots of minors and certificates, and I'm going to talk about field experience and research separately in just a couple of slides. So again, 120 credits to graduate, 40 of them are here, the rest of them are kind of here and here. Most of our students in psychology take more than 40 credits because they're upper level requirements. They usually use psychology classes to meet the upper level requirements. So most of our students take more than just the 40 credits, and that's totally fine. So here's our major. Intro to Psych. Some of you may have taken AP Psych in high school, and if you score a 3 or above, that's going to count for this course. You may have done College Credit Plus, but Intro Psych is sort of the prereq for everything else. Then we have a 1-credit class that talks just about the profession and career issues, and then we have sort of our 2 methods and stats classes. Then these are sort of the foundational courses. You take 4 of these 6, and then 3 more classes. Our classes are mostly 4-credit classes. And then 3 more classes, which could be the 2 that you didn't take from here, or it could be any upper level classes that we offer, any 300, 400 level classes. And we offer a lot. So these are what's required, 4 of these, and then you're free at that point to take 3 or more classes. And just to give you an example, this was, I think, this current spring. And you can see lots of 300, 400 level classes, dynamics of personality, industrial organizational, that was my class, abnormal, psychological disorders of kids. We have psychology of hate, cross-cultural psych, social psych, tests and measures, psychology and controversial health issues, psych of adulthood and aging, and history of psychology. This is a good one because, you know, it's taught through the museum. The director of the Center for the History of Psychology teaches this course. You can't really get this at other places because they don't have the Museum of the History of Psychology. So there's lots of different classes you can take. So again, you have to take these, you have to take some of these, and then you're free to take whatever you want. You can sort of create your major. So let's talk about psychology here. We have 17 PhD faculty, 500 psychology undergraduate majors, about 90 doctoral students. It's a very large department, one of the larger departments on campus. We have 3 areas at the graduate level: industrial organizational, aging, and counseling. Our industrial organizational graduate program is probably our flagship program. It's one of the rated top 10 programs in the country for the last 40 years. Our counseling program is also highly regarded and nationally ranked. Our aging program is a little bit smaller and newer, but those are kind of the 3 areas at the graduate level. We have a national reputation for excellence, a campus leader because of our size and the interest in psychology, which means that I end up being on a lot of university committees and doing a lot of advising and counseling of kind of where the university is going and changes that we need to make. If we weren't sitting in our respective places, me in my office at home, I would show you our facility, which is a terrific facility. We have a 24-station computer lab, which is great. We offer classes in there, and when it's not being used for classes, it's available for psychology students to use however they'd like. We also have seminar breakout rooms, lounge area, kitchen area. We have a lot of space on our third floor. We also have our own advising in psychology, which is a little bit unusual. Our own advising, which is really helpful for students. These are folks who know the psychology curriculum really well. They don't advise so much about the gen ed, but they advise about the psychology curriculum and the careers and graduate school and those sorts of things. We also have really good instruction. We have excellent faculty members who are creative and thoughtful in the classroom. And then these two things I'm going to talk about right now. Almost right now, in a second. In terms of the classroom, we all teach differently and we have our own approaches, but we rely on research studies because we are a research discipline and because we are a doctoral department. All of the faculty are involved in research for sure. So that's a really important thing as well. There's also the integration of learning and behavior at work, which is something that we do too. And group projects, we talk about things in the classroom. We do different things in class that are really great in terms of hands-on integrating pieces, working on different kind of projects. In my industrial organizational class, we'll talk about how employees are selected and we'll work on a project, or we'll talk about how performance at work is evaluated and we'll work on something together. It's also, popular culture becomes important. I show a ton of video clips in my undergraduate class because there's so many things that we can show how what we know, what we've learned, what we've studied applies to the real world. So there's lots of that. We have clubs and organizations for students. Psych-Chi is our biggest one. I really encourage folks to look into that. You need, I think, maybe 15 or so credits in psychology before you're able to become part of that. But they organize different events and they bring in speakers and they watch movies together, and there's all kinds of things. Defined Lines is also on campus. Active Minds as well. Just different options for folks who want to get involved in different things. But education isn't just in the classroom, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about, because I believe that these are two real strengths of the University of Akron's Department of Psychology. First, because we're a PhD program, all of the faculty and all of the graduate students are involved in research. I mentioned 90 graduate students, 17 faculty. We're all doing research studies from time to time. It's a great opportunity for undergraduates to get involved. Last year, I had 7 undergraduates working in my research lab, along with my 6 PhD students. So we're doing all kinds of research, and undergraduates can get credit for this as well. So you can register for independent reading and research, and then work in a faculty member's lab, helping them design studies or collect data or analyze data or run studies and get credit for that, and it counts as an elective. These are just some examples off the top of my head because I know kind of what folks are doing. How does age affect one's sense of humor and what's funny? This is a study by Dr. Stanley that got a lot of attention in the national press, looking at the difference, what people find funny depending on their age. And she used different clips from different TV shows and looked at age. It was kind of interesting. This is another really interesting one. This is one of the IO faculty, Dr. Diefendorf, studies emotions at work. And if any of you have worked customer service, you know what it's like to have to smile even when you don't want to be happy when you're not happy, right? Someone brings that steak back for the 4th time because it's just not cooked right. And you have to smile and say, yes, sir, thank you, sir, I'll get it taken care of for you. So that sort of thing is interesting. People get burned out. Sometimes some people are good at that. We call it emotion regulation. It's very, very complicated study. It can lead to burnout for people. Dr. Diefendorf studies that. So there's all kinds of things that faculty are doing, and we invite undergraduates to work with us on these research projects. And then the other is field experience. Field experience is, again, it's something that you register for. Dr. Whaler sort of coordinates this. You register for field experience. We help you find a placement. We probably have, how many is there? 2, 4. We probably have 6 more slides I could show. I think we have almost 100 field experience sites where people have gone and gotten field experience in the past. So we help you find a site. You volunteer there. Sometimes you get paid, but usually it's volunteer. And then all of the students who are doing that for the given semester come together and meet once or twice a week and talk about their experience and what they've been doing and what they've learned, and they share their ideas. We bring in speakers. I speak to this group every semester and talk about careers and how they can make use of these experiences. And again, you register for credit, and it counts as an elective. So the field experience options, really getting your hands dirty, involved in stuff, and then also the research experiences are 2 things, again, outside the classroom that I think are important, because you can learn things doing field experience. You can learn things working in a faculty member's research lab that is not easy to learn in kind of the more structured classroom. So I mentioned earlier, people say, what are you going to do with that psychology degree? Well, because it's a liberal arts degree and the liberal arts training, there's a lot you can do. This is the top 10 occupation areas of psychology students who get, this is with a bachelor's degree, not a master's, not a PhD, just bachelor's degree. And you just can look through this list. There's a lot around management, personnel. There's certainly a lot around social services, whether it's social work or psychiatric techs or mental health techs, childcare, case managers, social work sorts of things. But there's also a lot around management, executives, personnel, training, career counseling. Lots of options, because you develop critical thinking skills, communication skills, and problem solving skills. And those are really important. What we're seeing now that's really interesting is this connection between liberal arts and the technology fields. Technology companies are looking for folks who have been trained with a liberal arts degree. I was just reading an article today, someone who owns tech companies who argues that liberal arts graduates are better computer programmers than computer programmers. Now, that certainly is not always the case, and he says that in the article, but he says because liberal arts majors have been taught how to think and solve problems and think creatively, they're able to teach themselves programming languages and to learn how to do things and trial and error and that sort of stuff. And they have the communication skills to go along with it. So it's because liberal arts and science majors have an education built around creativity, empathy, listening, and vision that tech fields are really interested in liberal arts. And we need to recognize that really the way things are changing, that you all, when you graduate from college, need to be ready for jobs that don't even exist yet. I mean, we don't even know what they're going to look like because of robotics and artificial intelligence. Jobs are changing, but what we do know is that no matter how the jobs change, communication skills, problem solving, and critical thinking are going to be necessary for whatever jobs are remaining or whatever new jobs are created. So that's why the liberal arts training, I think, is so important. These are just articles that support what I've been saying about the link between liberal arts and technology. And you can see why I was wrong about liberal arts majors, connecting liberal arts majors to the tech sector. 4 reasons tech companies should hire more liberal arts majors. Tech companies are hiring more liberal arts majors than you think. It just kind of makes the point about liberal arts training and how important that is in lots of different disciplines. So why University of Akron and psychology? Well, in the industrial organizational psychology, which is what I am, there's a theory that talks about the people making the place. In fact, it's kind of funny. Sometimes when we talk about turnover and people leaving jobs, there are people who argue people don't leave jobs, people leave their bosses because that relationship is so important. So if we take that premise that the people make the place, I think what we have to offer is a committed, smart faculty who are great teachers and really solid scholars and researchers. And this is really important for students coming in. To experience this is just huge. People you can talk to. We value diversity and who you are as a part of our family. Diversity and inclusive excellence is a bedrock of the Department of Psychology. As psychologists, that's the way we think. We value diversity a great deal, and we welcome all students of all colors, races, creeds, sexual orientation, etc. It's all part of who we are, and it's important that we understand and value that diversity. A focus on what you need to be successful. We will help with that. We will help you figure out what you need to be successful. Our advisors, our faculty will do that. We're also a place that has engaged graduate and undergraduate students. It is a department, a unit on campus that has a lot of energy. There's lots going on. There's always stuff going on. Again, if we were in the third floor of the College of Arts and Sciences right now, you would see that. But the pandemic has sort of changed some of those things for us. We also have a new president and a new provost who know what it means to be a ZIP. I'm really impressed with President Miller and Provost Wensick. I think they are very, very sharp, great deal of experience, excellent values. They kind of know what we need going forward. And, the pandemic is causing a great deal of problems for universities, but good leadership, experienced leadership is what's going to set us apart as we move through. So finally, we rise together and we rise higher at the University of Akron. I even wore my shirt today. There's my shirt. We are Akron. And I do believe this. We do rise together, and then we look to rise higher. We have students who come through this department and this university who have done amazing things. And they came to us perhaps without the confidence to do those amazing things all the time, but they get there, and they get there through the experience and through the process. So that's it. I appreciate your time. Thanks for dialing in. And I should mention, let me just go back. I want to make sure that you get my contact information. So if you do have any questions, best way to get me is this email address, pelevy@uakron.edu, or you could call me at 330-972-8369. Email is usually best. I'm happy to answer any question, talk to you about psychology in general, talk to you about our psychology department, anything I can do to help. We think we have something special to offer, and we hope that you become a part of it. Thanks. Take care. Stay safe.